Tufts of his curly beard could just be glimpsed under the hooded friar's cloak as his servants watched him slipping off on foot to be swallowed up into the teeming, narrow, dark and noisy little alleyways. As arranged, the star-gazing young man was waiting for him outside the church. The sun was just setting as they went in. The church was packed. The celebrant intoned the Deus in Adjutorium, to which the monks responded from the apse. From the sweetness of those voices, he suddenly realized he was about to be immersed in a world of sound utterly different from anything he had experienced before, and he felt a sudden pang of fear. Then the psalms were delivered, in the raw, passionate voices of the people, by monks standing around the lectern. When they began to sing the Gloria, the monks raised their arms to the heavens, and Ortiz found himself following their gaze and joining their pleas for the mercy of God. The Magister had never known anything like it. A tornado of music, stunning and intoxicating, great gusts of sound like wind blew on his face. It was after the Confiteor, sung in parallel fifths, that the miracle occurred. The polyphony being rendered in a way he could never have imagined. A few voices, singing a cappella, seemed to be issuing from all parts of the church at the same time. But when he peered around to see where they were coming from, there were no singers to be seen. The melody of the Alma Redemptoris Mater, sung by a sole soprano voice, rang out clearly above the other parts. The young Neapolitan nudged the Magister. This was the voice of Camilla Esposito. Her pitch was perfect, and the timbre of her voice was beyond the extraordinary. When she sang high notes, it sweetened in colour and shone like silver. And when she went lower in the register, it darkened to the hue of bronze. He could not make out where it was coming from. It was as though the roof had been torn open and it was descending straight from the heavens themselves. During the long notes of the canto fermo, the singer executed a sustained trill, as though she wanted to execute a form of aerial drawing. Such was the music the Magister had publicly deplored, but now that he was immersed in it, he had but one single thought: to know what his own music would sound like if it were sung like this. desire was short-lived. Just as the choir was launching loudly into the motet, he felt the hood of his habit being thrust against his face. Then he was dragged backwards, though the all-enveloping mass of sound made any attempt to call for help quite useless. They carried him away, through streets crawling with people, to what he was convinced would be his doom. The young man who loved stars. He found himself in a large empty room, alone. Hours later, 6 men veiled in white came in, and, together with them, the notes of a villanella sung by a voice that was unmistakable. Camilla Esposito was there too. The reason he had been sentenced to death was now explained to him. A young Neapolitan girl had been seized by a group of Spanish soldiers and violated in the cartiere. One of her assailants had been himself. 1,000 words would not suffice to expunge such infamy. The singing came closer. Now the singer was just outside the door, and now Camilla Esposito's face itself appeared. The beauty of her features could not disguise the rage and scorn with which she uttered the words empio cor, cruda voglia. As he came closer, he could feel her warm breath upon his face. Now, a descending second sung from the chest seemed to target the Magista's very heart, as though at that moment music had the power to kill. And she disappeared. Diego Ortiz was imprisoned in the premises of the Propaganda Center for the Refinement of Musical Taste, a place where music was a welcome guest. And for this reason, he was allowed to use an instrument to accompany his prayers. He was brought a viola da gamba, which he tuned with great care and then began to play.